Well, one of the great things I think you did in your lecture was to point out that focus doesn't mean specifically concentration. That's the easiest thing to think of when you think of focus, because any of us who had to study a subject or solve a problem know what it means to concentrate in that way. But
And that's actually something, whenever I talk about the objectivist theory of free will, I'm always very careful to underline that
right,
and try and clarify what that means, because that's a common misunderstanding of the objectivist conception of free will. And the metaphor of focus, the term focus, it leads people, I think, to think that it then only means concentration.
right. So what does it mean? How would you say what's the essence of focus as such?
I would say focus as such is, the essence of it is what you might think of as being purposeful, of intending to do something, of being in control of your thoughts and the way you're directing your attention. It's a fundamentally reality-oriented view that where being in focus is not just attending to something, but attending to the facts, attending to what's going on in reality around you, or what's going on
Right.
in yourself, but that's what's real.
Yeah, that's interesting because the objectivist view of focus, I mean, it you can say it's based on the psychological capacity for attention and for directing your attention and monitoring it. But it's not just an internal control of attention. The idea of focus is that you're using your attention to grasp reality and take account of things in reality that serve your purpose, whatever your cognitive or purpose is, if you're trying to understand something, or what reality tells you about the right means to achieve a goal, if that's what you're engaged in, in some kind of action. One of the things that helps me keep in mind the difference, or the point that focus is a more general term and capacity than concentration, is to think of walking down a city street, especially in a neighborhood that's a little dicey, and there I'm on what I call a kind of high alert. I'm trying to be vigilant and alert, but it's my awareness is spread. I'm open to sounds, sights, what's happening a block ahead, who's happening, who else is on the street with me, which is kind of to my mind is the opposite pole from tight concentration. And I remember when I started teaching after getting out of grad school. Grad school is all about concentration. To study your subject, master it, pass your exams, write your thesis, and so forth. But then when I started teaching, I had to learn something I'd never really, thought about before or really had to do before, which is I had to be able to both to concentrate on my outline and what I'm trying to convey to the students, but I also had to be vigilant in the sense of aware of all the kids in the room, and monitor, are they getting it, are they not? And that it always interested me how it took a while to develop that ability to switch back and forth, or to have both of them at the same time. I don't know, but to me that's a good example of the varieties of focus from an internal standpoint.
One of the things that struck me about the objectivist view of focus was that as I was doing reading about the research on willpower that's been coming out recently, you get this impression that in many of the willpower experiments, it's people's ability to resist an inclination they have, or the use of their power to suppress their emotional reaction to a disgusting film they're watching. Acting against your inclination, or resisting the urge to eat a cookie, and instead being forced to eat radishes, are the cases of people exerting their will. And that's a little different from the objectivist theory of focus, because in the objectivist theory of focus, you can be acting in terms of your inclination, but still be in focus. Although there's an interesting interplay here because, well, let me because it's interesting because on the one hand, in the objectivist theory of focus, you can be acting on your inclination, and if you know your inclinations are acting in the right way, and you're aware of the general pattern of your action and understand why it's the right thing for you to do, and you choose it in that sense, then acting on your inclination, doing what makes you happy and what gives you pleasure is absolutely the right thing to do. Now, some of the willpower research then says the degree to which you're acting on your inclination will preserve your reserves of ability to act against your inclination or to exert your will in other areas. And in a way, then, if you can line up your values and your emotions with what you consciously choose is the right thing to do, then when you follow your inclinations, you're freeing up resources to direct yourself more authoritatively in broader areas, to pay attention to things that you otherwise couldn't. So you've got more focusing resources available for the kind of willpower exertion activities that you might need to do.
Yeah, that those experiments and the findings that you talk about in the lecture are really interesting, and they relate to a philosophical view of free will, that it is essentially a matter of being able to resist an impulse, that it's inherently conflictual, oppositional, it's negative in that sense. And for the reasons you said, I don't think that's true. But it raises an interesting question about the nature of effort, because, one of the things that we observe introspectively that tells us we have free choice is the experience of having to exert effort or not. And but some things, some high levels of focus don't seem to involve much effort if everything's in alignment. A good example in my mind is the experience of flow that Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist, has written about, where you really are totally aligned and focused on whatever it is you're doing, whether you're in the zone as an athlete and just focused on the game, on a particular task in the game that you're going to perform now, or in the zone, so to speak, as a writer where things are flowing. But we know that people in that state are exerting huge amounts of biological effort. So, there's the sense of internal effort, of mental effort, is not in total correspondence with the degree of effort that is being exerted. But also, in those cases, you really are the way you get into the zone is knowing what to concentrate on.
Sure, like keeping your eye on the ball in sports.
Yes, exactly, right. And just trusting, not thinking about where is my arm. If you think about that, you're lost.
What I find as a writer, when I get into that kind of a zone, I'm using my conscious attention to kind of listen to what I think of as subconscious music.
Wow.
Because words are coming, if you're in that kind of state, words are coming pretty freely. A lot of different ideas for ways to express something are just coming along. And then it's more attending to the overall purpose, keeping the structure of what I'm trying to do in mind, or where I'm trying to get, if I was writing fiction, where I'm trying to get in the narrative, and what sounds right and what doesn't. So keeping the conscious attention up at that level while using a lot of subconscious resources to be in this highly productive state.
Yeah, well, I envy you, Will, because I know you do that, and it flows more freely. And actually, this since this is the objectivist theory, and the basic idea is, of course, from Ayn Rand, she says something very similar in the short books now of some seminars
Art of Fiction
that she
Writing.
gave. Art of Fiction Writing, Art of
Nonfiction
Nonfiction Writing. And it was all about knowing where to devote the resources of your conscious mind and how to trust your subconscious to do what it can and really only it can do. Yeah, that's important.
And by the way, I'd like to just give a shout out to our viewers, a lecture that David gave, The Experience of Freedom, and the video for that you can find on our website in the Atlas Summit section under videos. And in that lecture, David, I think you did a really nice job of talking about the different ways in which we use focus, the different forms in which we can be in focus, from a narrow focus to a wide focus, a kind of diffuse focus, anyway, those dimensions were very interesting, I thought.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. It is, in that sense, a very rich topic, I think. And although one can get tired a little bit of going through again and again the debates about free will and determinism, there's a lot to learn about the nature of will, choice, focus, and attention. And one of the things I love about the objectivist theory is how well it orients you toward a whole realm of experience, which is actually tapping into a lot of real psychological study and evidence now. I would say that...
No, that's something I find very exciting too, is as objectivists we sometimes find ourselves getting angry at science for not paying enough attention to the facts of human nature. And so it's very exciting to see a lot of new psychological and neuroscientific work focusing on the very fact that people choose, that they have free will, and how that actually works in the human organism. That's just very exciting to see that research being done, because it will enrich our understanding of how to live, really, and will help people focus better, use their resources, their mental resources better.
That's a genuine skill. It's not just a matter of flipping a switch, as you pointed out very nicely.